Like to call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Mayor Crane.
Here.
Councilmember Saltz.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Sayre.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Tanner.
Here.
And Attorney Powell.
Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Minutes stand approved. Dale? You have a presentation for us?
Brief.
Okay.
That's the goal. I just want to give you an update on the status of some projects with the Covington Circle Trail. This is kind of an update. I was here last year, May 2nd is the day, actual day that I think that I was here when I looked it up this morning. So what I'm going to do is share 3 things with you. The first 2 things are kind of updates. And I think the third item is I'm going to request that the mayor call for a motion, and hopefully there's a second, and discussion and approval on the third item related to the trail is the plan. So if you're not ready to do that, I understand. But a couple of things. First of all, if you're familiar with the abandoned railroad bridge in 136, which is down, we say, over the hill, down along the Wabash River, it's about 6 to 7/10 of a mile between the abandoned railroad bridge and Highway 136. Down in that area is what's called Five Crossings Park. So there's a 10-acre county park. It's the only county park in Fountain County. It gets about $400 or $500 a year, I think, for gasoline for mowing down there. That's the only real expense. I think the city actually pays for some light poles, I think, if I'm not mistaken, down there, 5 or 6 light poles. So there's a little over half a mile down there. We've been working to try to develop this stretch for a long time. But when you deal with the Army Corps of Engineers, when you deal with the Indiana Department of Natural Resources, Department of Transportation, seems like those things take a little bit longer, a little more complicated. And then when you work with the Fountain County government, because they're the owner of the Five Crossings Park. So there is an asphalt trail in that park. Just last week, 2 weeks ago, the Community Foundation received permission from the county government to redevelop that trail. The Community Foundation has committed $450,000. The Fountain County government has committed $450,000. And you've heard a little bit of the READY grant. It's a statewide grant. You had to have $2 raised locally for every one that they would give, and so they're giving $450,000 for that project. So our plan is to move forward with that project along the river. It's probably going to take 1 year to 2 years to go through all the red tape again to do everything that has to be done. We've done several studies down in that area. They call them wetland delineation studies. We have all that taken care of and all that's approved. So we're moving forward with that. There's no commitment at this time that's required from the city of Covington. I'm not for sure if there's anything in the future that's going to be required from the city of Covington. It's foundation money, county money, state of Indiana READY grant money. So that's one phase. So the trail is 5.2 miles long at the present time. The goal is, I think it's 5.3, the goal is 6.2, which is a 10K. So we're moving on that stretch. A couple years ago, just as a refresher, we got permission from the Indiana Department of Transportation, if we got that section completed down there, to go under 136 and come parallel with it up to 2nd Street. That's a right of way by the Indiana Department of Transportation. They've given us approval to build along that stretch. So that's good news, we think. Our goal is still to find a way to the park, and we're working with a few landowners to try to make that happen, but I don't have anything to share publicly on that. So So we think we're good along the river, we think we're good going under the bridge, coming up to Second Street, and the third big one, which is really, I want, hopefully your feedback and your approval tonight, is the third one is, because those two projects are gonna be in the works, this third project will connect all of them. And that is, if you go down behind the jail, behind where the street department is, where the trail is down below, there's a trailhead down there. But the trail continues on west towards the Wabash River, probably a couple hundred yards, and then it just kind of stops. And there's a barricade there where you can't go further across the abandoned railroad bridge. So our plan, and the mayor worked with my predecessor at the foundation when there was remodeling project taking place in downtown Covington, probably a dozen years ago, even more than that, 15 years ago. A lot of that fill dirt from there went down to the trail to build a ramp on the north side of the abandoned railroad bridge to go down and then back under the railroad bridge, which would connect to the Wabash River section. So a lot of the ramp and a lot of the fill is already there. But also we've had some people, some donors say, wouldn't it really be really neat, in addition to those, what would happen if we could do something on the bridge, the abandoned railroad bridge that goes across the river. And so before we did anything, we commissioned a study. The foundation spent $10,000 on engineering study with VS Engineering, a well-known engineering firm in Indiana. They gave the bridge a good, clean bill of health. It used to be able to handle trains, and so this is a pedestrian bridge, so it shouldn't be any problems for that, even though it's nearly 100 years old. They gave it a clean bill of health. So during that time, then, I've been in communication with Mr. Powell. As your attorney, he also sits on the board of the Community Foundation as well. And through his good legal work, he was able to track down the owner of the bridge. It's a private individual, owns that abandoned railroad bridge. A lot of people don't know that, but it's owned by an individual in Nevada. And that individual has agreed to give the deed, and has provided a deed to the city of Covington if the city of Covington wanted to accept the abandoned bridge for the purposes of recreation and go out a quarter of the way, half the way. It would be contingent upon money that we have available to do it. But you'd be surprised to know that that quarter goes all the way behind the old Flexel plant, or Flexingate, and it could go further and further, some of the same owners. So my request for the city, since the city is now in possession of the deed, is if you would accept the deed, accept the bridge, and record the acceptance of that. And that bridge would become one of the assets of the city of Covington, just like any other bridge. There's 2 bridges on the trail right now, a lot smaller. But that's kind of where we're at in the development of the trail. So I'm open to answer any questions that anybody has. No engineering work has been done on the trail. You can't really do that until you're the owner of the assets. So we can't really move forward until we have some of these things in place. So
Dale, did you lay out where how it's gonna go underneath the 136 bridge and how we're gonna connect to the park?
Well, the plan right now is just to come up to Second Street.
Right.
We're working with some landowners to find a way in between Second Street and the river to get to Sand Hill Road. We know the way that we would like to go. Haven't got the landowners' approval to do that yet, but I think there's a day we're gonna get that.
You're just trying to find high ground there to build it, so that way it doesn't get
Yes.
flooded out. Yes, sir. Okay.
So for the Wabash River, my 16 years of keeping track of it, the river gets out of its banks about 5 to 7 times a year. Last year from February 1st To February 1st this year, it did not get out of its banks. On average, it gets out 5 to 7 times a year. On average, it stays out 5 to 7 times a year. So worst case scenario, my experience in the last 16 years, it could be out 50 days. It's usually in the spring when that happens, very seldom in the summer, sometimes in the winter, but nobody's out using it in the winter. One of the good things is that the river is tree lined, and so you don't get the largest logs into that 5 Crossings Park area because the river keeps them in. You get some of the little scruffy brush and things like that.
Now, being that's county down with the river here, and it goes north, it goes to the river bridge,
Yeah.
136. Who's gonna be responsible for cleaning that off after the river does come out? Cause it can get to be a mess.
It can be a mess if it's not taken care of on a regular
Exactly.
basis. Like I said, we're probably 1.5 or 2 years away from having everything done, but I would think that there needs to be some type of, I'm calling it interlocal agreement between the foundation, the city, and the county on how it's gonna be maintained. I think we've had a good working relationship with the city over the years, so the foundation either buys a piece of equipment or goes 50-50 on the piece of equipment. The city is more often than not provide the manpower, to mow it, take care of it, things like that. And so I think it would be something similar, in the park, but I don't know exactly what that agreement would look like. But when the foundation completed the first phase of the trail is 2007. 2007, I think the community foundation had about $7 million in assets to do everything that it does. Today we have about $32 million of assets, and so we're in a better position to assist the city, to assist the county in the maintenance, the upkeep, the wear and tear, the trail and things of that nature.
And I will say that they have contributed to pieces of equipment to take care of not only the park, but the total trail.
Yeah, I think, what was it, Brad, a couple of years ago, we resealed all the way from the point, all the way back to the start of the trail, 3 miles. I think it was $30,000.
Yeah.
It was 20,000, we went 50-50 on it. Foundation did half, city did the other half.
I know, but this is really gonna be a big project,
It's gonna be a big
considering what we've got.
Yeah.
We'll be adding a lot to it.
What's the city's obligation if we accept a deed for that bridge as far as getting it engineered for any walking trail addition?
We'll leave that to Taylor Powell.
I don't believe that would be our obligation, would it, Taylor?
No, we talked a little bit about that, obviously not that needs to be decided on that, though I think we talked a little bit in the past about some sort of whether it be a use or some sort of agreement with the foundation. I know part of the reason to get it in the city is because the city owns the rest of the trail, but also for grants, grant funding and things. But I know we also, at one point, had talked about maybe maybe you, Brad, had talked to insurance about, and it wouldn't add too much more
Yeah.
to insure that, just that portion.
No, that was our concern, was liability,
Yeah.
and at that time, it would not add a lot to, it was negligible.
Given the condition that it's in, I mean, will our insurance liability be higher in the condition that it's in right now?
I don't think it's in pretty good condition.
You wanna walk across that?
I would,
You would?
sure.
Yeah.
No, I would say it's in pretty good condition.
Yeah, the way
But
it's
it
set
would
up
need
now,
to be assessed by engineering.
the way it's set up now, someone would be trespassing if they walked on it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's barricaded, it's marked off, things of that nature.
There's a lot of people that goes down there and uses it though. I live right there close and I know for a fact there's a lot of people that goes down, walks it, they go back there and they even take 4-wheelers and other things. I've seen people go across it,
On
on 4-wheelers. I wouldn't wanna do it now. 10 years ago,
Wow.
yeah, but not
Across
now.
the actual bridge itself?
Mhm.
Wow.
Really?
That was my first thought when he said that, okay, if somebody goes down there and gets hurt, the city owns it, then the city's probably gonna be liable,
Yeah,
even though they're trespassing.
yeah.
If we would take, possession of the deed, wouldn't it be a good idea to fix it to where nobody can get on it? Until something's done with it,
I'd leave that to
yeah.
your legal team to decide that.
Dale, in your,
Yeah, we don't have a plan for usage as soon as the city accepts it.
No, I know, yeah.
It's just, we would own it, then we can apply for grants, we can do engineering studies and things of that nature. Yeah,
So it'd be wise for the city to take the deed for it, so that then that would open up, we'd be able to get grants for anything for it.
I like to quote our friend John Wooden, the famous UCLA basketball coach, who won 10 national championships in 12 years. When opportunity comes, it's too late to prepare. And so that's what this is being prepared for when the opportunity comes for us to move forward.
Yeah, but I assume that the three-part, $450,000 commitment has nothing to do with, that's totally in the park, that has nothing to do
Correct.
with converting the bridge over. This is a separate proposal.
Correct.
Cause the proposal for fixing the bridge up, I see a lot of contradictions through it, just in the surface. You know, frequently it's talking about the piers being in good condition, but then there's photographs of cracking and delamination. They're talking about the girders being in good condition, but you can see surface rust all over it, and I'm sure it hasn't been painted since.
Yeah.
And yet, if we also talk
I
from a
don't-
liability standpoint about making sure we've got, rails and that kind of stuff up, but there's no description to even talk about what it's for, or what safety precautions are there to keep somebody from going over the edge.
I think that would have to be, done after we would,
I'm concerned right now about a liability standpoint, about people being on there if we accept it in the meantime, because we've got no commitment as to how soon this project may even take place. We may be sitting there with a unsafe structure. that people could be
have you
on.
checked on that? I thought you checked on that,
Which aspect?
about the liability portion. I mean,
Yes, I mean, I hadn't talked, but we had talked to insurance about adding it, and it was negligible to the premium to add
Right,
liability
right.
insurance on that portion.
but,
Are you talking about if I looked at, like, the legal theory on our
Yeah.
obligation?
I
Dale,
mean,
my question for you was, so with the pillars and that we talked about, you have, cost estimates here in a couple phases. Was any of that to fix those pillars that are starting to dilapidate?
Yeah, I'm not an engineer, but I don't believe those comments are contradicting the structural integrity of those piers. Those are just comments related to a 100-year-old bridge that gets weathered.
For 100 years, they look good though, but might be looking at the bid summary sheet, is there a plan to fix that is currently reseal it basically with that concrete on those piers?
Yeah, we have done no engineering studies on the construction of the trail. And so there will be requirements that we'll have to abide by from those that we get the grant from, what those requirements would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that was pertaining to my question anyway, so I was just curious on
Yeah,
that.
these are very common all across the country, these kind of bridges and trails, things of that nature. If you're a biker, runner, jogger.
so what are you wanting, you would like for us to take control of it?
I would,
If we do that, then we would need to block it off, put no trespassing.
yeah, I don't know what you guys need to do, but that's what I would, that's my desire, is that the city accept the bridge.
Yeah, what would it, what kind of liability does that open us up for if it's blocked off, no trespassing? Somebody climbs over it,
Yeah, I mean, I'm never gonna tell you don't have any liability, right?
Yeah. yeah.
But if you've taken those steps, and I can look into some things to get you those steps. The likely theory then is that they've accepted any danger in that.
Mhm.
Again, that never stops anybody from filing anything, as I'm sure you know and everybody else knows.
As we know,
Dale, in the 5 times a year average that you said that the river overflows its banks along there, as it comes up to the bridge, who's responsible at that point to maintain that area around the bridge?
I'm not so sure I understand.
Well, you're gonna have debris and flood damage and everything else from the overflow of the river. Who, at this point, if we accept the responsibility for the bridge, what cleanup or whatever else, or whatever potential damage from flooding, who's responsible to?
Again, you're asking for a responsibility, I can't answer that, but I wouldn't anticipate that you had to do anything between now and when then the trail was in usage.
I don't think anything's been done up till now, and it's been,
Does IDNR accept any responsibility along the river?
They're responsible, so DNR, the county park has a 99-year lease,
Okay,
okay? There's 69 years left on the lease,
from IDNR.
no, with the Wischermeyer Trust,
Okay.
which owns all that. That's who the county signed the lease with 30 years ago. And so DNR is responsible for the parking area, and they're responsible for the boat ramp. That was part of the reason why all that was put in. DNR wanted a boat ramp, they wanted parking, Fountain County wanted some kind of park, trail system. So DNR is responsible for the ongoing maintenance of the parking area and the boat ramp. I think Brad's worked with them some to get some gravel placed down there over the years, which it needs to be refreshed.
yeah.
Yeah.
I've talked to him in the last 6 months and told him, we need more gravel, so.
Yeah, so the county will still be responsible. The trail isn't gonna cover the whole 20 acres in the park. It's still a Fountain County park. They have a volunteer that mows it now. So we would only be looking, our agreement with the county and the city and the foundation later would be associated solely with the trail, not any other part of the Five Crossings Park. I mean, there may be advantages to us to wanting to upgrade the amenities that are down there, just to make it nicer. But I think we're just years away from having a real, I think we're 3 feet from gold, if you would ask me.
Is it volunteers that takes care of the trail that's in place now?
City of Covington takes care of it, it's their responsibility, and some volunteers to assist. The one who volunteers, the one who mows is a volunteer.
Yeah.
The one who mows at Five
Down at
Crossings
the
Park. Yes.
Michael T. Garden.
Right.
Yeah.
Just does it on his own.
Brad, do you need a motion? I'd like to make a motion to accept the deed, just to see where we're at, see where the rest of the board's at.
Okay,
I'll second
okay. Bob,
it, yes.
Brad,
No,
Joe,
Yes.
Justin,
Yes.
Josh.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1 to accept the deed. What was the name of the company? Was it Western Indiana Recreation?
That's the bankrupt organization.
That's right.
There's an individual who's the,
Stony McGahy,
Yeah, McGoy, yeah.
McGoy,
he's the owner.
McGoy is
in
signed off,
Crawfordsville.
West Central, yeah.
And then will you be recording that deed?
I would say so.
Alright. Anything else from me?
I don't think so, Dale. Does anybody else have any questions for Dale?
Well, I think since we've, certainly not today, but since we've taken it over, I think we need to look into getting it blocked off a little more than it is, if people are riding four-wheelers across. So you,
I would say so. Have you seen him do that, Alan?
About a year and a half ago.
Really?
Motorcycles, dirt bikes, yeah.
I think
They go up and down the trail there behind my house too, they're not supposed to be on it, but they do.
Yeah.
Horses.
Yeah.
Need one on both ends.
Okay, next Tuesday, the 9th, Mental Health America, Wabash Valley Region will be celebrating May as Mental Health Awareness Month. And, plan on being there to, present and sign a proclamation stating that we are working to achieve better mental health in the Fountain, Warren, and Benton County areas, at least from Covington and Fountain County. The proclamation will be signed at 9:30. If anybody is interested in coming to Warren County Learning Center, I believe that's across from the courthouse. They are inviting any citizens, board, council members that would like to be there. If you are going, let Linda know. I have received one bid for roofing and siding on the large pavilion. It's to remove, clean up and dispose the shingles, install roofing paper, install 26 gauge standing seam metal roofing and trim that would be like the new restrooms at boys baseball and girls softball. It would be also to remove the vinyl siding, a lot of that is busted up, and trim and replace with metal siding and trim that is like the new restroom, and new fascia on the overhangs is included. Price is $52,275. We have money for it. We have some in the grant, and Dale has indicated that the foundation would also donate money. So,
Even though I don't vote,
right, exactly.
9 board members vote.
He will present it anyway for the board. And, it's a historic building. I believe it was the cattle barn, or Joe, you probably know more.
It was horse.
Horse barn
It was
at
kinda
the
used for-
fairgrounds.
Yeah, at the fairgrounds. I've had horses in that pavilion. They
Yeah.
really have.
And I would suggest that we also paint it on the underneath side, replace any posts that are bad. Also paint the posts the same color as the siding or the fascia.
I have had people talking about putting some kind of skylights in there in certain places, but who's gonna get up there and clean them off? I know
That's the thing.
it is.
I would put some LED lights in that operate very inexpensively.
Who was the bids from?
River Run Roofing in Marshall, Indiana. They have replaced, they put the roof on the restroom and the roof on the, pool building, the bathhouse.
You said it's for something thing.
Yes.
Does it describe how, many square you're talking about, or square footage?
I don't think it does. I didn't get up there and measure it. I know it's a lot. It's both roofs, the top one and the one below.
We could only get one bid. Anybody, I mean, we couldn't get any more bids.
I'd asked a couple others. It's just, it's hard to get anybody to bid on a job.
I'd say something that big, they probably jump on it, but maybe not.
You'd think so, but,
I'll make a motion, we accept the bid for 52,275. So we can get started on this thing.
Any idea on the timeline, Brad?
That was my next question.
they're,
If it gets
they
accepted?
would start anytime.
Okay.
We just want, I just need to get the rest of the money, I mean,
Okay.
you know.
But hopefully this summer though, if things.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay,
Yeah, it's in bad shape,
yeah, sure is.
yeah, and it's a nice building still,
Let's make sure it stays that way.
yeah. Did I have a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, Josh,
Yes.
Justin,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes,
motion passes 5-0 to renovate the large pavilion. I did check into building a new one, similar to the gazebo, the construction, it would be well over 250 to 300,000. So,
For a new building.
yeah, and we wouldn't have anything more than what this one will be when it's done. Bart?
A few things. So, last week we done, flow test, hydrant testing, for our ISO. That was, will finally get done. We done 5 hydrants, I think it was, scattered through town. So we got, Garth's got that turned in to him. We ran anywhere from roughly about 550 gallons to 1,200 gallons a minute, different parts of the town. I'd like to continue on with that later this summer. We really need to test every hydrant in the city. Obviously, we won't do them all in 1 year, but like try to do it like on a 5-year plan, so we can do about 15 hydrants a year. You know, several residential areas and then, you know, several in the business
Right.
areas, so we know what we got. So we'll try to get a list put together so we can get that, so we kind of let people know where we'll be at when we
Great.
do that.
That'll help our insurance rates, won't it?
Yeah, and then also, we really need to color code the top of the hydrant, so we know, helps us determine too what kind of
Flow rate.
pressure we got coming off that hydrant, we get a type of hydrant. I went to FDIC, Friday, did,
Mhm.
meet with the truck, guy with the truck.
Mm-hmm.
Our chassis isn't there yet, expects it to be delivered about any time. Then they can start building the rest of the truck from there, so. It's still a slow process.
Okay,
I don't know if any of you have been by the fire station, but we have tore out, some of the drive. I'd like to make the drive wider and make the approach coming in off the street a little bit longer.
mm-hmm,
The one approach there is a pretty steep slope. So when we pull out, the truck does a lot of twisting.
mm-hmm,
And we need to get ready for the new truck as well. And then any, you know, new future trucks coming down the line, but,
okay,
I would like to see if there's a chance that the city, could pay for that, put that in for us.
the drive,
Yeah,
okay. We have, I mean, we tore the other out to
Yeah.
widen it.
yeah.
Oh, yeah,
So we'll eventually have to tear this other part out too, so we can get that slope stretched out farther.
right,
So, but, Tyler got some stone in there, so we can start driving on to get packed down and stuff, so we get that,
Sure.
get ready to put concrete in. But, and that'll allow us to get back in a little easier too, cause backing into the south door is a kind of pain, cause you gotta work around everything, this would be more of a
Right.
straight shot coming out of the building.
Okay,
And also, we're, just a couple months away from the 4th of July, so we'll be doing tenderloins and ribeyes again.
okay,
We'll be discussing, we have a meeting tomorrow night, we'll be discussing what, we're gonna raise funds for. We've got a couple ideas, so, kinda let you know what that would be at the
okay,
next meeting or so. And also handed out the first quarter
Mhm.
report too. If you have any questions?
Or how does that compare to a year ago?
We're almost the same. I look back and we're about where we was last year. But, you know, it's just, can't always guarantee I think I did notice though, between the city and Troy Township, we're pretty well dead even with calls. We've taken a lot of calls out in Troy Township so far this year. So, but that's, I mean, that's not a sign of anything, that's just the way it's worked, so. But I think overall, we're about where we was at last year for the first 3 months of the year.
Please correct me if I'm wrong, I thought Garth gave a report a couple months back that we were considerably up above where we were a year previous.
Well, at the end of the year, we was up.
End of the
Oh,
year.
that's what it was.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
last year's end of year report, we was up quite a bit, so.
Okay.
Is that all you had, Bart?
That's all I got,
Okay,
unless you guys
thank you.
got something else.
I know from the size, the extension of the wheelbases that the trucks are getting, as well as, additional tankers and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. As tight as that turn is down here on 4th Street, they do need that apron widened. It makes it easier to get in and out, especially with all the parking that's there along the street for the Sunday shop. It's difficult for them to be able to get that turn in and out.
It'll be a little different on the new truck.
Yes, even more so.
Yeah,
Creates even a greater need to get that done.
thanks, Tyler. I mean, Bart. Tyler, you have anything for us? I know. Greg?
Ortman's been over the wells, we've been doing some work over there, we've got the repair done on the cracked pipe on number 3 well, it's back in service.
Okay.
So we got all 3 wells are good to go now, and I'm gonna put it on a lead here in a few days.
Okay,
And they will be back to finish the flow testing and the maintenance over there within a week or two. We gotta clean out some foul boxes that were full,
okay,
get those going. And then they said they could, we still gotta abandon that old number 1 well at some point fairly soon. And Ortman said they could still need some rock or build that up a little bit over there so they get their crane back.
okay.
They were,
And they're planning on doing it, aren't they?
yeah, I just talked to them today.
Okay.
It's just, they're just worried about, they're not too excited about losing their crane over the hillside there or anything.
They gave us a price on it, so, okay,
Yeah, I just wanna be able to get in there safely and get out.
okay. Is that all you had?
Yes.
Okay. Shannon?
Yeah, actually, me and Seth both graduated from the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy 2 weeks ago. Stepping stone for me and the chief, but a major accomplishment for him being a first class patrolman. So.
Congratulations, Seth.
Good deal.
Big guys.
Do you have anything else?
Oh, that's it for now.
Okay. Bob?
I got a couple of things, that truck in and stuff on Park Avenue, have we got any reply from him, of whether he's gonna clean it up or not?
Yeah. I talked to them the other day, and they were gonna put an engine in the one so they could haul everything else away. I don't think it's gonna happen.
But one truck doesn't have anything under it.
Oh, it doesn't, no, it'll have to be picked up
It'll
with
be
a crane
put on a trailer,
or
yeah.
something. I just,
Ain't
I
gonna
think-
happen.
Before it's all done, I think both them's gonna
I
happen.
think we're gonna have to go up and just take a trailer or two and load them up.
She's probably got a lot of stuff up there that can go to Purvis anyway.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I think the bags in the one truck, in the back of it are cans, so,
The only other thing,
yeah.
on the jail down there, have we heard anything, are we getting it or not?
Whenever they give us the deed. So, Taylor, you wanna check on that,
I've talked to Ken about it a few times, and we check on it, and you
okay?
I just wondered, I went by there today, and the grass is getting up there anyway,
Yeah,
you know,
well, they should mow it.
I know they should.
Dale, you wanna check on that?
Other than that, I don't have anything, we're gonna be bringing up an executive session on this salary stuff, right?
Yes.
Okay, no need to be bringing that up then,
Nope,
okay, that's all I have.
okay, Brad?
Yeah, where are we on the testing for the new well? Off the Pearl?
That one didn't pan out.
It did not?
No, it was a maybe 60, 70 gallon a minute.
Oh,
I drilled another one down on the railroad grade that is more in line with where the ones that I put in when I built the golf course on the east side of the road. It was maybe 80 to 100 gallon a minute.
That one down there was?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, so not enough, no. We need to be around 250 total, so. Do we wanna try again? More on the plain, like up the hill, like going up the hill towards Thornhill, where the road comes off?
Did they think they was in the aquifer down there or not?
Couldn't really tell, they hit bedrock. We
Oh,
had-
they did?
Yeah,
oh,
yeah. So, I mean, it's a good well for, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
for a lot of places, but nothing, not what we need. So, we could have them try again,
I think we have
see what they get. Well, I think we need to, cause.
question is where?
Well, I think that one is, you know, it's almost across the road from,
Yours, the
yeah,
ones there?
from the wells.
And that's all they was
And
getting?
they were 250, they were 300 gallon a minute, the ones. So I think if we go across the road and, it's where you turn off to go up the hill.
Yeah,
If they can set in there and drill off the north side of it,
on the road that goes up to the
yeah,
Thornhill.
right where they pull off. Is the main on that side of the road?
Main's on the, where the power poles are, south side of the bridge, it's right in there, you see there's a post right there. In the creek, it's about in there.
The one that goes up the hill,
It's right in that area, yes.
it's on the west side of the road,
Yes.
okay,
So,
so it'd be close,
well, I know we got a water line and telephone lines on the west side of the road up there.
yeah, and it would be close for the water line in for 3-phase,
If they go on the right-hand side of that road that goes up the hill, they'll be all right.
yeah.
Cause that water line's in between the road that goes up and the other one, the blacktop,
Yeah,
county blacktop.
so, let me have them try again,
I think we have to.
We need to.
yeah. I mean, we definitely need to arrive at something.
Since we did bedrock, we probably spent as much as we'd originally allocated.
Yeah. Well, we knew it was gonna be that deep anyway, so,
Well, it would work better the further, where we drilled that one down there by the lift station, we were gonna run into a problem with IDEM proving that, cause it was gonna be too close to our force main from the lift station to the.
And that
sewer
was
plant.
never gonna be a well anyway.
Right, that was a test, but right,
Yeah.
I mean, that test well was gonna be too close, we would've had to move
It's
it
gotta be-
away anyway.
Yeah,
Uh,
so,
So, the farther away we get from that, the better it would be.
yeah.
Well, your forest line is quite a bit further west, isn't it?
About 50 feet from where
Is
that,
that all?
yeah,
Yeah,
we stepped it off, it's
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
Make a motion, we go ahead and check for the next one.
okay. Okay, got a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Josh,
Yes.
Justin,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Bob.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. We'll talk to them and we'll see if we need to stay up. As close as we can across the road to make sure that hopefully we'll be in the aquifer.
Yeah.
And what, we gotta go at least, 50 feet deep, right?
There has to be 25 feet of casing. So, ideally there would be 35 to 40 feet of casing. Probably that much higher. 35 anyway. Do you have anything else, Brad?
No, I didn't.
Joe?
Actually, yes,
Yeah.
I'd like to get support for Bart's request to actually finish that apron
Oh, yeah.
at the fire
Yeah.
station.
Yeah, we don't need a motion on
Alright.
that. We just need to do that.
Okay.
Joe?
So we got the restrooms done at, Bowl Diamonds?
Yes.
The new one?
Yes.
They look nice.
Yep. We'll finish up the sand volleyball, this week.
Everybody catch their cats.
Yeah. It's not the cats I'm having a problem with, it's little kids.
Yeah, I see the.
Biggest sandbox in town.
That's all I got.
Okay.
Little
Justin,
goober there.
I don't have anything.
Josh?
The only thing I had, so after last meeting, I got a letter sent to me from the State Board of Accounts. And I believe it was addressed, it said it was addressed to you in the office about this motor vehicle highway restriction fund. What's our plans to moving forward with that?
Well, I've been talking with, DLGF about that. They don't know really how to handle it, cause they look at it different, that's who we do our budget with. And they told me, we look at it different than the State Board of Accounts does, because the State Board of Accounts, they couldn't really tell us what we need to do either. And it's, you're supposed to put half of your, I'm trying to get a determination, because evidently Debbie, 5 years ago, she got a notice on it, but didn't tell anybody. And the people we deal with on the budget, they didn't know anything about it, so they didn't even address it, so.
Is
And
it something we need to, the way I read it, it's asking us to create those two funds, correct?
we have one.
We have the
We
MBH
have-
fund, they want
We have
MBH restricted,
MBH.
Okay,
that you can only use for what we use bituminous out of. Can only be used for street repair, maintenance of streets, things like that, that's what we pay, you know, and we pay our employees out of that. So we're trying to figure out with them, if we take 50% out of our distributions, that's gonna cut the MBH funds so much.
can that money then be turned around and be a portion of the money that we give to the community crossings?
Community crossings, it's
grant?
kinda like that match, yes. 'cause-
But there would be a lot more in it,
Yeah.
and wouldn't allow us enough in the other fund to operate,
Okay.
so.
My question is, in the end though, since we haven't had it since 2017, when they
Yeah.
give you those figures up, it's $1.4 million
Yeah.
delinquent.
Well, they said you don't have to do
Have
anything.
to do those
Okay.
right.
We don't have to
Okay.
do anything
That
with
was-
it.
right.
And the DLGF guy, he, you know, I mean, he's kinda like, I can't really tell you, cause we don't go by that. State Board of Accounts, like it was no big deal.
Okay.
That's the only thing they found wrong over the last 5 years
We were
was
audited from 17 to
just
22.
that.
I'm sure at the same time, there's been a lot of expenditures that have come out of the other accounts that didn't come out of this because it wasn't established. So it's not to say
Yeah, they all come
that,
out
it's not to say that we're out by that much, because I'm sure
Oh, no.
those expenditures,
We're
it's just how it's
It,
accounted for.
it all
for their
comes out of
purposes.
MVH,
Right.
and it's always come out of MVH.
Is that something we're gonna have to start implementing, you know?
Well, I'm trying to get a determination on it, cause the one guy, he kinda thought, I wouldn't do anything, I'd just do it like you've been doing.
Well, we
It's
can't
like-
keep getting letters from them, can we?
Well, they do it, they audit us every 5 years, and if that's the only thing they find, and it's not
What's
even.
the auditor say to do?
Well, he couldn't even tell me,
Oh, jeez.
so
Email.
I'm not too concerned about it. Did you have anything else?
No,
Jeff?
I just was curious on it.
Okay. We're waiting on the final determination letter, I mean, for the whole thing that they will issue to us. Does anybody have anything?
What is the latest on the building the pavilion?
Pardon?
What is the latest on the building the pavilion? I'm sorry, let me rephrase that, the band show.
They can't have it to us till July, so I didn't, we haven't dug any holes because they're gonna pull their stage up there for the 4th of July.
Will it still be done this season?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
it'll be done by fall, yeah,
That's,
oh, yeah. Jason, or Alan, sorry, Alan.
So, first I just wanna say thanks for getting the end of Fifth Street fixed last fall. Even though it took over 20 years to do, but it is fixed, and it's fixed right now, hopefully. But, to go along with that, the end of February, there is a culvert that runs through the middle of that. Goes from one side, goes from the west side to the east side.
Mm-hmm.
And every year it's the same thing, cause everything comes from 136, goes down the street, goes into the drains there at Union Street, goes under, and then everything comes down over the hill at my house. And that culvert's been plugged ever since the end of February. I've been to the city building, she's called. Somebody did show up, looked like they took a shovel, took a couple shovelfuls out the end of the one entrance. Next rain, it filled right back in again. I mean,
I
it's,
didn't know anything about it.
it's still plugged.
Do you know anything about it, Tyler?
Needs to have sewer jet on it, but I can't get that, couldn't get the nozzle started in there, so we gotta get a different,
Okay.
like the Bulldog in
Yeah.
for it. I got
Yeah.
another one coming that's supposed to go in there and spiral that stuff out.
Okay.
So when that comes in, we'll get you taken care of.
Alright, cause all that money was spent to fix it, now all the water's going over it again, it'll just start eating it up again and breaking it down like it did before.
It didn't cost you anything.
Well,
There's
it's,
several places in town that need that done.
Yeah.
yeah, well, I was talking to Bob when I come in, I mean, when we first moved in there 25 years ago, every couple of years, they would come down with the backhoe and the truck and dig out the ditches, cause
Yeah.
all the leaves,
Yeah.
limbs, everything comes down
Yeah.
there for every fall.
Yeah,
So they would come do that, but after 2 or 3 times, they just quit doing it, and I don't know if that would help, if that could be done again or not, but, cause when it gets plugged like that, instead of all the water going down along the side ditch, it
Yeah.
comes between my house and my garage,
yeah.
and tries to get in the basement.
Poor design, wasn't it?
And you can't really do nothing on
They
the other
should-
side,
I know. They
because
should-
that's where the water
they
line, the
should've
gas line,
designed
everything
it
else.
different before they built the house down there
Yeah.
that you live in,
Yeah.
so, you know.
It is what it is, but.
Yeah, when you got 200, almost 200-year-old town, you know, things happen. So, does anybody have anything? Yeah.
I just wanna circle back, you were talking about the proclamation for Mental Health Day next week.
Uh-huh.
So, like, you're gonna go sign, that's great, but what, I mean, aside from signing the proclamation, what are we doing? Besides saying like, hey, like,
Well-
we need to worry about mental health, like, what are we doing besides signing a proclamation? Because that doesn't really help, it helps about as much as thoughts and
Well,
prayers after an accident.
You gotta talk about it. You gotta talk about it. So they're asking me to do this, I'll do it, and maybe it'll do some good. I mean, these people, you know, Mental Health America, Wabash Valley region, you know, it's a problem. But I'm doing it because they asked me to.
Shannon, I know the police have even got certain individuals identified that are that way, so we make sure that they're being handled in different manners, right?
Yes, they usually keep it, noted up at dispatch. place like that.
Yeah. We probably do more than what, you know, they're given credit for, or what they know about, but at least it's being talked about, so.
And there is some action taking place. Two people have contacted me recently at the Community Foundation. Each of them are gonna donate $5,000 as a result of the incident that took place with Mr. Badger on March 6th. I'm asking our board of directors at the Community Foundation to match that with another $10,000 so that we'd have a $20,000 endowment fund. I visited with the superintendent, and the Badgers are scheduled to visit with me in a couple of weeks. And the purpose of the fund is to work with the school on being able to have some money that's available for convocations, workshops, in-service activities, both for staff and for the kids. There has not been any convocations, workshops taking place since COVID, the Covington School Corporation. And also there'd be some money set aside for outpatient counseling for kids that might need it, that could be offered through a non-for-profit. I think there's something, Sycamore Springs, maybe out of Lafayette, is the name of the group that I've heard about. So I do think, like you say, the more that people are talking about it, others raise up, and then they may have the resources to help actually do something tangible. So I'm sure there's other things taking place, and I know there's other things taking place in town, but, just
There,
I'm glad to hear that though, because if they haven't done anything since COVID, and personally, I think mental health situation's gotten a lot worse since COVID than prior to. I don't know how much of it was because of COVID or what, but I'm glad to hear that we're proactively doing something to try to get this going again locally.
there's another company that's starting up in Danville, Loom. Has anybody heard of that? It's counseling and kinda along the same lines. They're having an open house on Friday from 4 to 6. I'll be attending, so, you know, see what they offer. We have Happy, Joyous, and Free here that I think address that, so.
But how do you get somebody to admit they got a mental problem? Until it's too late.
I'm not an expert on it.
No, I know that, but
idea.
I don't know how to, and like you said, you
So
could
many
go
forms
to a
of mental
house
health,
and
it's-
that might be a mental problem, it might not be.
Yeah.
It'd be great if you knew, you know?
It'd have to be from the people that are around that person all the time.
Family, friends.
Yeah, it'd have to be, you know, that's where the input would have to come from. It's not gonna be from a person that has.
Medical
No,
personnel, for
right.
police and fire personnel,
Yeah.
I mean, anybody that's gonna interact with them
Yeah, exactly.
is trained for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of people that don't wanna admit if it's their child, that they've got a mental problem, they don't want that out there. So it's a surprise, and that's when it happens.
Fortunately, the stigma is less today than it was 10 and 20 years ago.
But the issue is that it's still there, and if we don't talk about it in the school,
Exactly.
then it keeps happening.
Yeah.
Like, I have a child that goes to middle school here, and you hear things at home, like, these kids are jerks, it is what it is, but what is happening, there was nothing after Terry. Like, I mean, they had
People showed up
They
at
had
the
this-
next school board meeting,
but we did, I was there.
and the next school board
And I was
meeting,
there.
Mark Lloyd and I were the only ones that showed up
But
at the next one.
but the support staff at the school was there for one day, and they had told us, we'd gotten a call, that if your kids didn't feel like they could go to school the next day, that was fine, everything was fine. But that extra support staff was there for one day, the one day that they said our kids were forgiven for not going. So then they were just supposed to go back to school as normal
Yeah.
the next day, that was an issue.
I would encourage everybody to go to the school board meeting every month. And,
Until it's resolved.
but,
Until actually-
one thing I forgot to mention, Chris Pinkerton is not here this year. I've hired Tony Badger as the park caretaker, and, to help Ketty out, I've hired, Ashley Dunham will be working on a part-time basis as the animal control, the cat animal control officer.
Thank God.
So, Ketty, you're off the hook.
Brad, where do we have any lifeguard supplies?
We have right now, we have 6 or 7. Yeah.
Good enough, good enough.
And Tyler has started, the street department started draining the pool. You got it mostly done, don't
We
you?
got all the leaves blow to the bottom.
Yeah. So it's,
We gotta get it pressure washed. I wasn't gonna do it today, I wasn't gonna make them guys stand out there when it's blowing. and
No,
cold. So maybe next week when it's warmer, we'll get it pressure washed. All the heavy stuff down the bottom is about ready to be set out. Got a little more water to pump out, but other than that, it's good shape.
Tyler, as I recall our last conversation, you were looking for some equipment to resolve the issue up at Washington 11.
Washington Web. Oh, is that up there? That's kinda, needs to have somebody with this designed and engineer that kind of stuff, put a push pump in or something. What's the problem is, there's that storm sewer tied into the sanitary sewer stuff there, that we have no clue where it's at, and we get big rains like that, that's just,
Washington and 12.
12.
12.
Yeah.
Yes. Walter's up there,
Yes.
yeah, I'm aware.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, that's just,
The church hasn't got anything tied into it?
no, it goes right there to Lewis Lane.
I think we have a lot of,
There's just a lot of runoff up there, and there's
I think we have a lot of downspouts tied into it. So,
unless you gas that or something.
I think it's time
able
to have it smoked and
Yeah, smoke.
again,
Yeah, that's the best way to find out, smoke them.
yeah.
It'll show them, the ones that are tied into it.
You know as well as I do, Bob, all that's up there been a problem for a long time.
Long time.
Okay, does anybody else have anything? Anybody? Meeting's adjourned.